What is the New York Times? What is the progressive argument about guns? It's that guns kill people. Guns miraculously jump out of holsters. Guns miraculously leave the gun closet or the gun case. Guns miraculously find themselves into schools where randomly guns start pumping bullets into people. That's the same attitude, foolish and nonsensical, that they have now taken about 9/11. I'm Dr. Duke, and this is Constitution Corner. Well, I think it is a really important thing to recognize that our celebration, our commemoration, our remembrance of 9/11 back in 2001 is about a week away from Constitution Day next week. And so I think it's neat in a historical sense that those two dates fall so close to each other. And because what's going on with the Constitution and what's going on with our remembrance of 9/11 has a lot in common, I think, and I would like to draw that together for the program today. If you've been paying any attention, the New York Times today wrote a memorial article to commemorate the day of 9/11. And in that article, the New York Times literally said that on this day in 2001, airplanes aimed themselves at buildings on this day. There is no mention in the op-ed about terrorism. There's no mention about Al-Qaeda. There is no mention of the terrorists who hijacked those planes and hijacked the cockpits and flew those planes into the buildings. No, according to the New York Times, airplanes aimed themselves at buildings. And not only does this show us the cowardice and the craven nature of the New York Times, not only does this show us that the so-called paper of record is engaged in large-scale fake news by not mentioning the human beings and their repulsive ideology who did this. But now it also sheds light into their motives. It's the same argument they give us about guns, speaking about the Constitution, right? The Second Amendment. What is the New York Times? What is the progressive argument about guns? It's that guns kill people. Guns miraculously jump out of holsters. Guns miraculously leave the gun closet or the gun case. Guns miraculously find themselves into schools where randomly guns start pumping bullets into people. That's the same attitude, foolish and nonsensical, that they have now taken about 9/11, where these planes randomly, apparently for no reason, sentient aircraft decided they were going to fly themselves into the World Trade Center on 9/11. It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and it's an insult. It's an insult to the people who died in 9/11. It's an insult to the people who lost family. You can't attribute this to terrorism. You have to attribute it instead to planes. By that argument, then, let's do what we do with guns, right? Let's ban all assault planes. And you think about that for a second. Well, okay, maybe that kind of makes sense. Those planes that can be used for assaulting buildings, maybe because they're assault planes, we should ban them. And now you go back after that and you listen to the gun argument. Let's ban assault weapons. The minute you allow these unconstitutional red flag laws to go into effect, the minute you can begin to argue or support the argument that guns kill people, not people, the minute you start to do that, how long is it before you have to concede one obvious fact? Any plane, anywhere, can be used as a weapon. For that matter, any car, anywhere, can be used as a weapon. And certainly, for that matter, these cars and planes can be used to assault individuals, to assault buildings, to assault innocent populations. Well, then, of course, it stands to reason that any gun, from a little pop cap gun to an AK-47, is capable of assault. How long before we allow them to red flag and potentially even ban weapons people like the people who run the New York Times, call assault weapons? How long is it once they get their way, once you give them that inch, that you come to the recognition that according to them and according to their warped definitions, everything is an assault weapon. Every gun is capable of assault, like every car and every plane. It is a disgrace what the New York Times has done. I teach at the university, and my kids, my freshmen now, were born the very year 9/11 happened. None of them remember it. None of my kids in any of the 4 years have a basic remembrance of 9/11. And the fact that the New York Times chooses to provide an account of 9/11 that discounts human action and human evil is disgusting and unconstitutional. And it makes you wonder if the freedom of press clause in the Constitution is something we should be rethinking as much as we rethink our gun rights and our free speech rights. The left would never see it that way, right? Our freedom of the press is sacrosanct. It is eternal. But your guns and your speech, according to the progressive left, is utterly and completely negotiable. And we at the New York Times don't mind lying about it, misrepresenting it, defacing and defaming the memory of those who lost their lives in the name of our anti-constitutional politics. Time to honor the Constitution by continuing to understand it.